How are you enjoying doing your show? How are you enjoying doing that?
I love it. I'm just, I'm learning a lot in terms of what it takes in the digital stratosphere compared to, doing first take. First take,
Right.
I pretty much got that down packed. We've been number one for years in the morning. I think we're going to continue to be number one up 22 consecutive months, year over year in the ratings. So I think that's a beautiful thing. But when you look at the podcast, it's a different audience. You think about doing the stuff on YouTube and ultimately iHeartRadio, which is where my deal is on the audio side. Just knowing that you have to appeal to a younger audience and learning the ins and outs of that, the algorithms that exist on YouTube, some of the business decisions that I have to make, running my own business and stuff like that. It's something that I never had to do before because I never had the freedom to do it, Rich. And so because I didn't have that freedom, now that I've had that freedom over these last few months, picking up about 700,000 subscribers in 14 months, I don't think it's too shabby.
No.
But you know me, I'm not satisfied. Not satisfied at all.
Well, where do you want to go with this? I mean, you want to take it where like you want to take it somewhere on network? You want to go like like if you wave a wand, the Stephen A. Smith show goes where?
I'm open to all the possibilities. I don't limit myself. I mean, I could say one thing, but if a better opportunity presents itself, I'm certainly going to entertain that. Certainly, building my own studio out of my own pocket, spending the money that I spent. My goal was to make sure that I established something that was appealing for linear television, as well as for the digital stratosphere. I certainly want to do that. I've been continuing to do that, but I'm also not married to just sports. I'm a huge fan of Bill Maher's Real Time, Real Time with Bill Maher. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of John Oliver. I was a huge fan of The Daily Show, first with Jon Stewart and then, obviously with Trevor Noah and stuff like that. And, imagining myself in front of a live studio audience is something that's incredibly appealing to me. It's not the be all end all. It's not to say that I have to do that. But if an opportunity presented itself for me to do that on a weekly basis, it's certainly something I would entertain, whether it's in the sports stratosphere or the political stratosphere, because I like talking politics. I like talking about some of the political issues that are percolating and are permeating throughout our society and beyond. So that stuff does not scare me. It's something that I embrace, but I'm never leaving sports. That's my bread and butter. It's something that I want to do. But again, I like that feel, whether it's late night feel or whatever is in the afternoon in front of a live studio audience, at least once a week. That's something that I definitely want to entertain. And there's opportunities that's presented itself, and I'm going to entertain them as I move forward.
I hear you. Listen, the politics thing is always a difficult lane to stray into, but, hear what we're doing here, a lot of pop culture talk, a lot of movie talk, a lot of celebrity talk, and that is
I love that.
There is no
question.
You do great. I appreciate that, but it's just the politics thing to go in that lane and then the other lane. That's a tough one, Stephen.
But that's exactly why I like it. Because it's tough. Of course, pop culture and entertainment are paramount.
Right.
It's just as profound as sports. I don't mean to imply that I don't want to talk about those things, but to me, those things are a given. Pop culture and entertainment, along with the world of sports,
right?
Those are givens, so because that's what the younger generation is most interested in. But the reason why politics excites me as well is because, number one, it affects the lives of every American citizen. Number two, there's no in between. You either love it or you hate it in terms of the subject matter that's tackled and what have you. You piss people off or you make them incredibly enthused and excited about what you have to say. Certainly, it's a dangerous platform at times. I understand that, particularly in the climate that we live in. But I also like to be that renegade. I also like to be somebody that's perceived as not running from anything. And I've often said this: I don't knock Jimmy Pitaro and ESPN for doing this one bit. When Jimmy Pitaro arrived around 2017, 2018. He wanted us to veer away from politics, and he was absolutely right because it was hurting the network and things of that nature. I completely supported him then. I completely support him now. When you tune into ESPN, that's what you're looking for and whatever. But in the same breath, we're not monolithic people. We have an abundance of ideas and passions and interests that we like to touch on that fuels our spirit and our soul on a lot of different levels. And when you don't see me talking about those things, it's primarily because I'm appeasing the bosses and the network that I work for. It's not because I'm running from it, because I'm not scared. I don't mind tackling those issues any day of the week. That's who I am. That's how I've always been. It's how I've gotten to where I am. And I'm not about to change. I mean, I'm 56, but I'm in the best health that I've been in 30 years. I feel stronger, more healthier than I have been in that 30 years. In the last 30 years, I'm just revved up, ready to go practically every morning that I get out of bed. And so that my passion and the things that I'm passionate about are what excites me. And as long as I'm excited about getting up every day and tackling the issues, I think that lends itself towards me having the successful career that God has blessed me with.
And I'm assuming the conversations you're currently having, right? You do mention politics in these conversations. You mentioned Pitaro,
Not really.
right? No,
Not necessarily, because listen, I don't talk about my contract stuff like that, particularly in negotiations, because I'm certainly not going to do that. But what I will say
yes,
is that I'm never shy. I'm never shy about letting people know where I stand and what I want to do, and I have no problem with ESPN wanting me to limit myself to sports for ESPN. But I don't have an aspiration to just be, a monolithic in what I'm doing or how I'm thinking. There's work that I'm happy to do for ESPN. There's also work I'm happy to do for Disney. And last time I checked, Disney's got Hulu and they've got FX and they've got a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a docuseries that's on ESPN Plus right now that I co-produced as a production company with Religion of Sports, that I also executive produced. I've been greenlit on a drama series that I've created that I can't touch on as of yet until they make the announcement, that was picked up by somebody outside of Disney and ESPN. And so because of those things, I have a strong desire to be an executive producer, to build my production company, and to have the freedom to venture into any direction that I want to venture in when I'm off the airwaves of ESPN. I have no problem at all limiting myself to doing what ESPN wants me to do for them. When I get off work, I have my own life and my own passions that I want to extend beyond the corridors of sports, and I'm going to do it.
Of that, I have no doubt, and I am rooting for you, sir, because me back 21 years ago asking to play with more tools and toys in the Disney chest is why I wound up working for NFL Network and no longer ESPN. And it's not a lot of folks who can take a stance like that and believe in oneself and pull it off. And that's, to be straight up, you are.
I will say.
You are
Sorry,
that.
go ahead.
No, you are that, Stephen A. I mean, for real.
Well, I appreciate it. I got to say this, though. It's so much news that percolates and all of this other stuff. Here's what I have to stand down on and just acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
My contract called for me to just do ESPN. When I made the decision that I wanted to have the freedom to start my own podcast or what have you, that had to be allowed by ESPN in order for me to do it. Jimmy Pitaro had given me his word 2 years earlier that he would allow me to do it. And he kept his word. And so a lot of times when people are talking about things, that they don't really have an idea about the relationships that I have within the walls of ESPN. The Jimmy Pitaros, to the Bob Igers, the Dana Waldens, down to the Burt Magnuses, the Dave Roberts of the world. I can honestly look you in the face and say to you, every time they've given me their word, they've honored it, even when the contract stipulated that they didn't have to. And so as I sit here today with something like the Stephen A. Smith Show, completely 100% owning and operating it on my own, one of the things you don't hear me doing is bloviating about, I wanted to do it, so I just did it. No, I had to go and ask for permission and remind them of the word that they gave to me, and they kept it. And so I'm very, very careful in terms of talking about my desire for independence, my desire to really show my chops as an executive producer, as a production company, some of the other things that I want to do. Hell, I even want to get into a little acting since I've got my recurring role in General Hospital. There's a lot of different things that I want to do, but I'd be remiss in highlighting and articulating all the things that I want to do without mentioning the fact that there was a time that they could have handcuffed me. And back in the day, like you said, they did in previous regimes. This particular regime hasn't done that to me. And so my relationship with the bosses is incredible, because when you work for bosses that keep their word and honor what they said to you, when they know they have the power to do otherwise, and they still keep their word and honor it, that's a big deal. And I appreciate that.
No doubt. Yeah, they didn't handcuff me. They cardboard boxed me, Stephen A., but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
It didn't work. It clearly didn't work.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.